As the Western hegemonists celebrate the death of Yahya Sinwar, making him a martyr instead of a Hague defendant, they should take heed of the tectonic shifts underway in the global order. The UAE's president, MBZ, recently arrived in Moscow just days before the pivotal BRICS summit. This summit symbolizes more than diplomatic ties. It represents a new reality in the BRICS nations, bolstered by their growing influence, are taking direct action to challenge the reign of the US dollar. With the BRICS cross border payment initiative, countries are forging a financial pathway that bypasses the dominance of Western monetary systems, turning to national currencies instead of the dollar. A blow to the economic control the West has wielded for decades and abused for decades. Russia has unveiled a revolutionary blueprint for transforming the international monetary and financial system through BRICS, aiming to decentralize power away from the Western hegemonists who have long benefited from this rigged system. This marks a turning point as BRICS steps into the leadership role that many countries, many nations in the global south have long yearned for, especially in the East, freeing themselves from the stranglehold of institutions like the IMF and World Bank that have perpetuated true inequality. At the same time, Rick Wiles has made a shocking revelation, claiming that American politicians are being secretly videotaped by Mossad while engaging in the abuse of young girls, allegedly using this as blackmail uh, for Israel's benefit. This explosive accusation sheds light on the deeper, darker machinations at play behind the scenes. How Israel may be controlling U.S. foreign policy by compromising politicians in key positions. Such claims expose the sinister tactics that Zionists and their allies, their dispensationalist allies, might be using to manipulate the political landscape in Zionist occupied Washington. And yet, when looking at the political chessboard, one cannot ignore a striking question. Why has ISIS, a group wreaking havoc across much of the Middle East, has never attacked Israel? Israel and ISIS, two forces one might expect to be at odds, one propagandized, that is, have somehow found themselves side by side on a UN blacklist of organizations accused of killing children. There's something deeper here, a strategic alignment between forces that, on the surface, might seem opposed to a propagandized mind in the West, but in fact are united in sowing chaos, death, and destruction across the region that persecutes Christian en masse, with ISIS going much further, admittedly, with civilians paying, civilians in general, paying the ultimate price. You see, I always found it suspicious that ISIS came out and apologized to Israel when they accidentally struck them. I forget the specifics of the case, but regardless, any apology at all just goes to show a justification of suspicions people have of you being a Zionist asset. You know, for as much as I feel Hamas has had has been inflicted by compromising influences pre-Gaza war. The pre-Gaza genocide. It's been a long genocide, but they're speeding it up. But pre-genocide, Hamas did have some compromising aspects that were influenced by Israeli financing. And the same is true to a greater extent of ISIS. If I can think of a group more compromised in the Middle East by Zionist influence, the first thought that pops into mind, ISIS. And then I would say Jordan. And then I guess third I would rank Hamas. In southern Beirut and other parts of Lebanon, Western-backed Zionist forces continue their systemic destruction of homes, businesses, and livelihoods, punishing those who dare to support Gaza. Legacy media, ever the mouthpiece for these imperialists, subtly portrays these civilian areas as legitimate targets, providing political cover for the indiscriminate violence that destroys entire communities. But also, at the same time, invigorates them. You know, one of the most, say, powerful quotations going around of Sinwar is his question of, do you expect us to be well-behaved victims, to let them kill us silently? And despite my own grievances with Sinwar's former style of governance, it's a pretty strong point. Resistance in Palestine, however, continues to deliver blows to the occupying Zionist forces. In an act of a life for a life, of violence begetting more violence, in Jabalia, Hamas fighters have claimed significant victories against Israeli soldiers, including the killing of the commander of Israel's 401st Armored Brigade. They have captured Israeli ammunition, repurposing it into explosives, which they used to destroy Israeli military vehicles. Footage released by the Al-Qassam brigades shows the effectiveness of their resistance following the demise of Sinwar, showcasing the destruction of Israeli military assets and demonstrating that their cause is far from defeated, even in the wake of genocide. Meanwhile, Israel's mini war cabinet, convening in emergency meetings, struggles to maintain control. The Israeli army is concealing the true number of casualties as helicopters rush the wounded to hospitals in Tel Aviv. Israel's leadership, trapped in its hubris, cannot face the reality that the iron grip it once held on the innocents of Gaza is slipping. Its veil of invincibility is fraying, and the cracks in the facade are becoming undeniable. Yahya Sinwar, despite Western criticisms, such as my own, that I've levied against him before his death, and all the condemnations, now symbolizes a resistance that cannot be crushed by mere rhetoric or the heavy handed tactics of the Zionist state, including the heavy handed tactic of genocide. I've said before and I'll say again, I wanted both Sinwar and Netanyahu to stand trial at The Hague for war crimes. And unfortunately, we will not have the privilege of seeing that be done. Because instead of being a Hague defendant, Sinwar is now a martyr. Sinwar has received vindication, however undeserved. Though Sinwar's physical fight may be over, and the victory dances by Western hegemonists over that fact continue, the political and ideological struggle that Sinwar was born into and died into is stronger than ever. BRICS ascendance signals the eventual expiration of Western hegemony, and with it, the settler colonial project of the Zionist state, propped up by Western military force and financial coercion and media manipulation. As nations around the world begin to see the light, especially within the collective West, many countries in the collective West breaking away from the traditionally unanimous position that to support Israel is important. The collective West, at least the upper echelons that haven't recognized Palestine yet, which is basically just the U.S., the collective West's ability to dictate global affairs is waning. The BRICS alliance provides a beacon of hope for a multipolar world order, one that empowers nations to break free from the yoke of Western domination. For too long, the Western hegemonists have imposed their will through economic sanctions, military interventions, and the subversion of governments. But now, with BRICS on the rise, nations can envision a world where sovereignty and self-determination prevail over the crumbling legacy of colonialism and ethnic cleansing to support said colonialism. As more nations embrace this movement, The political establishment in Washington finds itself increasingly isolated, just as its occupier, the Zionist state, finds itself even more isolated, clinging to its diminishing influence. The Zionist occupation, propped up by U.S. military and financial aid, will no longer be able to sustain itself in a world where the dollar is no longer the default currency, where alliances are no longer dictated by Zionist occupied Washington's whims, and where the resistance, be it in Gaza or southern Lebanon or in the heart of the beast in the United States, will no longer be cast aside as a mere nuisance. The winds of change are blowing, and with them, a new era of global justice and freedom from Western oppression is on the horizon. I recently saw that Gaddafi was trending, and why wouldn't he be in these times? Why the hell wouldn't he be? So it's crazy. He's like the top thing in trending right now, at least for the political trends on X. And an acquaintance of mine, Madge Tour, uh, said that said that he said this on X, that Gaddafi was BRICS before it was cool. And you see, in light of Barack Obama saying Libya was the worst mistake of his presidency, um, a mistake is me dropping the fucking cooking pan after making a delightful scrambled tofu, not ushering in the slave trade into Libya. I wouldn't describe that as a mistake. You knew damn well that Libya, under Gaddafi, whilst wealthy, was also a Jenga tower. And Obama sure went for the most risky fucking Jenga log in that tower. Now fucking didn't he? He totally fucking did. He totally fucking did. And and that is truly the biggest shame of all. Gaddafi was killed after announcing a plan for a gold-backed currency to enrich the people of Africa. And this plan, it did threaten the central bank people, and that's what led to his barbaric murder at Obama's hands. That was, I guess, a mistake. What in the fucking hell? So it's fucking sad. I don't agree with much of the governing structure, the way that they're set up in the Middle East, but when you deal with the reality of regime change, uh, with the destabilization that comes with it, of course they're still in the medieval age. I cannot fucking stress enough the realities of cause and effect. And those are the realities that we see before our eyes right now. Thank you for watching.